Okay, this should change any minute. Hello, welcome everyone. Yeah, there's the adjustment. Room sharing this evening. My sister's in from California, and so we're space sharing and hosting. So welcome to our shared space. Anyway, tonight we are looking at the last reading in the book of Exodus, which is Pekudei. And I have a short 60-minute overcap for you that I'm going to play right now. Parsha in 60 seconds. So listen up and get the overview. Here we go.
Shalom and welcome to Parsha in 60 seconds. Today's portion is from Exodus 38:21 through 40:38. It is called Pekudei, which means amounts of. Aaron's son Ithamar oversaw the budget of the tabernacle. Portions of gold, silver, and copper were used by skilled workers. A silver half-shekel tax was taken by each man 20 years and older. The skilled workers made the priest's vestments, ephod, and breastpiece, just as God had commanded Moses. They made the robe, the tunic of fine linen, and the frontlet inscribed, "Holy to the Lord," just as God also commanded. They brought the tabernacle and all its furnishings to Moses, and he blessed them. God told Moses to set up the tabernacle, and Moses did just as God had commanded him. Moses completed the work, and the cloud covered the tent of meeting, and God's presence filled the tabernacle. When the cloud lifted from the tabernacle, the Israelites would set out, and when the cloud did not lift, they would not set out. And God's cloud rested over the tabernacle by day, and fire would appear in it by night. This concludes the book of Exodus. Join us next week as we wander into the exciting and completely not boring book of Leviticus. And that is Pekudei in 60 seconds. Shalom and welcome to Parsha in 60 seconds. Today's portion is from Exodus 38:21 through 40:38. It is called Pekudei, which means amounts of. Aaron's son Ithamar oversaw the budget of the tabernacle. Portions of gold, silver, and copper were used by skilled workers. A silver half-shekel tax was taken by each man 20 years and older. The skilled workers made the priest's vestments, ephod, and breastpiece, just as God had commanded Moses. They made the robe, the tunic of fine linen, and the frontlet inscribed, "Holy to the Lord."
Just Exodus 38:21 through 40:38. It is called Pekudei, which means amounts of. Aaron.
So we're back, and that will go. Yeah, Troy, they are. These are very short and sweet 60-second cap overviews of the Parsha. Wow, it's still going. Okay. It will go away. There we are. There we are. So yeah, that's the 60-second overview. So we're going to look at Pekudei today and see what wisdom we can find in there. Did you notice something about Moses that occurs in this parsha that we don't see occurring in the other parshiot? Every time we turn around, somebody is saying, oh, where's my, there we are. Moses did this. Moses did that. Moses did bless. Moses did put this together. After we get past the ephod, okay, there it is. Moses did set up the tabernacle. Moses was to bring the lampstand. Moses was to place the altar. Moses was to set up the enclosure. Moses was to bring Aaron. Moses was to anoint the altar of burnt offering. Moses was to anoint the laver. Moses was to put the sacral vestments on Aaron. Moses was to anoint him. And Moses did all this. So Moses set up the tabernacle. Moses spread the tent over the tabernacle. Moses took the pact and placed it in the ark. Moses fixed the poles to the ark. Moses fixed the cover on top of the ark. Moses brought the ark inside the tabernacle. Moses put up the curtain for screening, all as God had commanded Moses. Moses wasn't involved in the creation of the tabernacle pieces. He didn't create the curtains. He didn't build the ark. He didn't build the altars. He didn't do the copper work. He didn't make the wash basins and the lavers. He didn't do like the sockets and the roofing materials and so on. But we see that Moses is putting all the pieces together. Yeah, Troy, Moses was a busy man, and since when did his job description include carpenter and builder? Moses is the leader of the people, so why is Moses the one that has been assigned this menial builder's work? After everybody else did all the work of creating the pieces and the parts, how come they weren't the ones doing the actual assembly? This was not build a tabernacle in a box, roll out the pieces, and put them together overnight, though this parsha reads like tabernacle in a box. Open it up, read the instructions, assembly required. But why Moses? Why not the people who created the vestments, the curtains, the sockets, the ark? Why didn't they get the honor of putting things together? Any suggestions on why Moses and not somebody else? I'll give you a second here and let's see what comes up. And we'll leave a sign-in note. Okay, Troy said that God wants Moses to put it together and dedicate everything to him. Yeah, but why Moses? Moses is the leader of the people. Doesn't he have more important things to do? Like lead the people and this, he's kind of like the CEO of a group out there in the wilderness. If we were in a company, would the CEO come on down to the ground floor and work alongside the workers? But what about Aaron, Troy? Dedicating the altars and ordaining the priests. I can see, yeah, Moses would be the one to ordain the priests, and Moses gave blessings for everything. But if the tabernacle is where the holy work takes place, and shouldn't the priesthood, isn't that really under their dominion? Well, I would agree with that, Ahava. I have run a business and my work, in fact, I ran a construction company, and I was down on the floor grouting tile with the guys, with the crew, and they wanted to know why I was down there, and I said that I don't ask my people to do anything that I don't do myself. And if the job needs to be done, then I'm in there in order to do it. So yeah, a good CEO does. Yes, Troy, Moses had to ordain Aaron too. So good CEOs get in and work with the crew, roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty. There's nothing too menial for a boss to do. If he can hire employees, then he can join. What about you, David? Punktorah, what about you? Any suggestions on what you might think? Or you, Doc, any ideas? Good leaders are the ones willing to clean toilets. No task is beneath them. That's how you gain the long-lasting respect of your underlings, says Ahava. And shalom to you as well. I agree, that's part of the mark of a good leader, Ahava. But God really isn't giving Moses a choice here. This is not Moses taking the initiative, rolling up his sleeves and jumping in to do menial work. This is God telling Moses, you will do this. So why is God choosing to give this task to Moses? What's really going on here? Because obviously it's not about the task at hand. There's something else, something underlying happening here. Troy says maybe God showed Moses how to put everything together, like he showed workers how to make them. Okay. For what purpose? Why would Moses need to know how to do all that? Because it's not Moses that's going to disassemble everything, take it apart, and carry it through the wilderness. That work's already been allocated to everybody else as they move, is to who's going to carry what and who's going to take what apart, who will reassemble it on the other end, how it's going to be done, and so on like that. So you would think that this would be a good place for this particular group of people to start practicing this task of assembly and disassembly and get all the kinks worked out, get it all timed out so they know how long it's going to take to assemble everything, how long it's going to take to disassemble anything. Let me tell you, there is nothing worse than showing up in the campground after dark, 11 o'clock at night, on a new moon, and having to put up the tent by flashlight. And Moses didn't have a flashlight. So he had to have some timing down pat so that when he took this all apart, moved the people, had to have it up by sundown in order to be able to see what he's doing. They didn't pack flashlights in their knapsacks, but then they didn't have a knapsack on their back. Okay, well, let me share with you a comment that I learned this morning from AWJS, that Devart Sedek from the American Jewish World Service, and they talk about making a difference, because we recognize, this is the first building project, like they said, and there are similarities between the construction of this first Mishkan and holy structure and the building of our own communal Mishkan holy structure synagogues. We have to raise funds, we have to get the contractors, we have to choose the design elements. Only in this situation, for this particular period, God chose the design elements, God picked the contractor, God told Moses how to raise the funds. And today, our modern communal leaders, usually the only thing they do is lay a ceremonial cornerstone. They go out there with the hard hat, the shovel, and the ribbons, and smile for the press as they dig that first hole, which is going to be the cornerstone of the new building. Well, Moses is not being asked to do just the cornerstone. He's being told to erect the entire Mishkan on the day of the first new moon, on the first of the month, to erect the tabernacle. Now, we know from the Jewish calendar that the first new moon of the calendar is the month of Nisan. And right now we're in the month of Adar, first Adar. We have a second Adar coming, and Purim will be in second Adar, because it's always in, if we have two Adar, 2 months named Adar, it'll always be in second Adar, so it's closest to Pesach. And Pesach will be 15 days after the first new moon of the calendar. So by the time Pesach comes in this particular reading, the tabernacle will have been put up for 2 weeks. And Moses is central to this process. He's a man of action, we know that, but he's usually in the role of political leader and judicial scholar. And he didn't have spare time on his hands, because if he did, his father-in-law Jethro would not have told him to start delegating down the line, because he would have had time on his hands. So, this group of the rabbinical students did a delegation to Senegal, and they asked the question that if, like Moses, their aim was to promote social justice, shouldn't they, like Moses, use the skills in which they were trained? So in the case of the rabbinical students, it was writing and teaching. In the case of Moses, it was political leadership and education of law cases, instead of doing manual labor. Where are they best utilized? But like Moses, these students were doing manual labor. In fact, they were building latrines. So then the question that the students asked was, what is the purpose of service in general? Whether religious service or service to people. What's the deal with service? Whether it's social justice, like Abraham Joshua Heschel, who is known for having, quote, prayed with his feet, religious worship. So what is the purpose of service? Do we do service for others? Are we doing service because it makes us feel better? Yeah, Moses had to put it all together in one day. So what becomes the idea about service? What are your thoughts on service? Is this something we do just for ourselves because it makes us feel good to help others? Or is this something that we do for others regardless of how we feel about it? Okay, Troy says that we serve God through serving other peoples. So if, like these modern rabbinical students, were building latrines out there in Senegal, can we consider building latrines serving God? Is that one way we can do that? Or is that too menial to be considered service to God? I'll share with you what these other students said. The other students related this back to the Torah, where we learn in the V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha levavecha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol miodecha. We got all our heart, all our nafshecha, our soul, meodecha, all our might. So if we are being asked to serve God with all our soul, all our mind, and all our might, that means, yes, that we pick up and we do service for others. Because in serving others, we serve a place for God. And one of the lessons that we can take away from Pekudei is that no matter where you are in the hierarchy, whether you're all the way at the top of the line and the political leader at the top of the pyramid per se, or if you're a laborer right down at the bottom somewhere, service is equal across the lines. All of us serve equally. It's the same lesson that we see in being told that all Jews give a half shekel for Mishkan, tabernacle, synagogue maintenance. The rich don't give more. The poor don't give less. Everybody gives the same because there are some situations in which we are all equal. We're all equal at birth. We are all born naked, maybe with hair, without hair, but we're still all born with nothing. That comes to us after our arrival in the world. We all die with nothing because we leave it behind us in this world for our descendants or pets or neighbors or relatives, whoever we leave that for, or service organizations. And when we perform service for others, we're all equal. There is, and Abraham Heschel teaches us that too. Abraham Heschel says that there is, in his book, The Sabbath, from the prologue, he says that there is a realm of time where the goal is not to have, but to be, which would be on Shabbat. But the quote continues, not to own, but to give. Not to control, but to share. Not to subdue. Let me see if I can copy this. Not to subdue, but to be in accord. Which is really profound when you think about it. Let me see if I can quote that in there. See, oh, there it is. It did work. Look at there. from Abraham Heschel's the Sabbath. Okay, David says, the thing I struggle with the employees I have at work is helping them understand that the importance is them doing the best with what they are giving. They all feel they should have supreme power rat or supreme power rate. Oh, should have supreme power rather than focus on their task. Yeah, too many chiefs and not enough Indians at the bottom, as they might say. The old cliche. Everybody wants to be the boss. Nobody wants to be further down. But wherever you are on the scale, you have to do the best, like you say, with what you have. God has given you specific gifts. And as we've been reading about the building of the Mishkan, we know that specific people have been given specific tasks because not all of us do the same thing. Not all of us have the same skill. Not all of us have the same abilities. We all have something that we're like wonderfully good at. Let's see, Troy says, adds, perhaps by putting the Mishkan together, that was Moses' contribution to everything. Okay. That was him getting in on the ground floor, rolling up his sleeves, and getting something accomplished. But it doesn't say he had any help. It just says he did it. I don't know if any of you have tried to put up a tent by yourself. These modern ones are a whole lot easier to put together. We had a big old canvas one from the 60s, and we put that up at 11 o'clock at night by flashlight on a new moon in the campground. While fellow campers sat around and laughed and snickered, but nobody offered to help. So, well, we could think about that. But what about Moses' contribution in leading the people? And what about Moses' contribution in helping to bring the people out of Egypt in the first place? Troy continues, we all can't do the same thing or the other things wouldn't get done. Right. We're not all qualified to do the same thing. We don't all have the same interests. So, for instance, David likes computers, so he does computer stuff. I do the very basics of the computer stuff. That's why I have nerdy children, so that I could send them to college, they could learn it, and I could get free tech assistance. And now that I need them, they're all on the other side of the country, and they're no help for me right now. So what kind of skills would you bring to the table? If you were out there, what kind of skills would you bring to the table? What are some things that you can do to pray with your feet? Obviously, we're not going to go down and help build the synagogue, because they usually have a builder and a work crew that's doing that. So where can we put our energies? Where can we, as Abraham Heschel said, pray with our feet? What are some ideas? Let's give you a few minutes and see what you come up with. Now, let me pull up that other page again. And maybe there's a lesson in there that even if we're the boss, there are times when we have to get out of the glass office. What kind of work situation do you think you would have if your boss never came out of the office to see what the minions are doing? What if he never came out and checked on any of the underlings in the office? Would this be a case of Animal Farm where they started out thinking all pigs are equal, but by the end of the book they were saying all pigs are equal, but some pigs are more equal than other pigs? Okay, David says she doesn't come out of her office. So how does she know what's going on in the office? How does she know what's going on in the workspace? Does she play Big Brother in 1984 and have cameras? What goes on for her? Okay, so she doesn't know anything, which means she's out of touch. Her office is operating, her people are doing whatever, and she is completely out of touch with them. Yeah, and then because she's out of touch, that leads to the next obvious point that David is sharing. She comes out and she yells about stuff that she has no idea about. She's clueless because she's not involved with the people. She doesn't have her sleeves rolled up. She's not out on the floor. And maybe that's another one of the lessons that we can take away from this is that even the boss at the top has to come out and work. She's touched, okay, that maybe by coming out and working with the people, our leader, our boss man, has a better idea of what's happening in the field, has a better idea of what he's not out of touch. So Moses is working with the guys. So I'm sure that, he's hearing all the good juicy gossip. Who did this? Who said that? Whose shoes are under that bed? Whose shoes are under somebody else's bed where they shouldn't be? And so on. I'm sure he's hearing all the good stuff once he's out among the people and working with them. He can also get an idea of what's working and what's not, because he can see what's going on. He's not hanging out in his tent out of touch with the community and just sending orders out the door. He's actually out among the people. So he can relate to the people. Now, have any of you ever been in business for yourself? Have any of you ever been the boss man of your own business? A boss woman of your own business? Or boss person? I like that. You can be the boss person. Or I can just say you can be the boss of your own business. Any of you have experience of being this kind of boss? Wait a few seconds here since we're behind. See what happens. See what you have to say to share with us. That my sister's face is wrinkled. Give you a minute. Okay, you're an internal minion. You prefer being Ahava prefers being the sheep over the shepherd. Yeah, sometimes that's easier to be the sheep. See me try and straighten out my sister's stuff. Maybe. Okay, David enjoys leading, feels comfortable in that role. Yeah, being the shepherd isn't all it's cracked up to be. Yeah, you're right. Problem is, I like being the shepherd. I really don't like being a sheep. I like to set all the rules and the regulations. I like to write all the policies and procedures. I like to tell everybody else what to do. I'm kind of bossy like that. It's okay. We forgive you, David. We understand. But I'm not the kind of boss, and I'm not the kind of that stays in the office. I'm out because, as my mother puts it, I'm a social butterfly, and I like to talk to everybody, and I like to get everybody's input, and I like to hold meetings to find out what's working, what's not working, what can we change to improve. I like to do fun things like that. But people don't want to pay me to be the boss. So, it's kind of like, yeah, okay. And then if I try to be one of the minions, I rearrange everything and the boss gets upset with me. So I've learned I'm not a good minion. I'm not a good sheep at all. I am a wayward sheep. I'm trying to think. It's not wayward that I'm looking for. It's something else. So, yeah. So, yeah, it's very important that we have good leadership. And we're not all cut out to be leaders. And that's great because some people make awesome sheep. And it doesn't do any good to have a good, yeah, so do I, Troy. I like to do my own thing. I suck at being the sheep too, yeah. If I do the sheep, I like to rearrange everything, the fences, the pasture, everything. But we can't, no, you're more goat than sheep, okay. And, but we can't, yeah, that's me, rebellious. But we can't be good shepherds if we don't have good workers. We have to have good sheep. We have to have people who like being good sheep, like Ahava. She says she prefers being a sheep. She doesn't want to have to deal with all that stuff that the boss has to do, the paperwork, the reports, the meetings, you fill it in, all that stuff you got to take care of. The IRS, the taxes, the yada, 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 the payroll, If you don't have sheep that can do all those other little jobs, the boss gets it all. Falls in the boss's lap. So, yeah. So that's really our main theme for this particular parsha is the fact that leadership gets out and does this. Wow, okay, so that we did. And let's see. Towards the end of our reading, after Moses gets his job done, Moses let's see, he placed everything in the altar, he put up the screen, he placed the altar of burnt offering, and then he offered up the first burnt offering and meal offering as the Lord had commanded him. And then he placed in the laver between the tent of meeting and the altar and put water in it for washing. I agree, Ahava. You're right. It is a symbiotic relationship. Not everybody wants to be a leader, but when you have leaders, you want to have good leaders. And King David, he was a shepherd, and he was a good leader. Good leaders don't necessarily come from the upper echelon of society. I mean, look at King David. He was not an upper echelon royal minion. Moses was the son of a slave and slave woman. He just happened to have been lucky enough to be rescued and raised in the palace in order to get the kind of education that he needed in order to be able to lead these people out in the wilderness. He got a good political education. He learned leadership lessons, and he learned statesmanship and leadership skills. Oh, you prefer an axe handle to a staff. Well, I don't have a staff, and I don't have an axe handle. My weapon of choice is a 70mm cannon shell. Solid brass. I'll just pick it up and conk the guy. Yeah, he was the wrong side of the tracks kind of guy. And many of our great leaders in Torah are that. You know, our early rabbis, the sages of the 1st and the 2nd century, they didn't come from long rabbinic families. They didn't come from money, most of them. They had jobs like one was a coal collector, one was a woodcutter, one was a needle maker. They had menial jobs that they used to pay their day. They were not rich. They were poor with their communities. They could empathize with the communities they led because they shared the same kind of life that was in the community. So where were we? Okay, and then once Moses had all this stuff put in it, he put the water because Moses and Aaron and his sons, they would wash their hands and their feet before doing leadership in the tabernacle and the altar. And then finally, Moses set up the enclosure around the tabernacle and put up the final screen. And when he had finished all this work, the cloud, you know, the glory, hakavod of God, and in the Torah, the word uses ha'anan. Anan is cloud, still used today. V'yachas ha'anan et ohel, settled on the ohel meod, the tent of meeting, uchvod, and the glory of Adonai, maleh, et hamishkan, and the glory of God, et maleh, filled the tabernacle. And because it so filled the tabernacle, there was no room for Moses to enter. When the cloud would lift, that's when the Israelites would pack up their gear and go along their merry trek through the wilderness. Let me see. And but if the cloud did not lift, then the people would not set out until the cloud lifted. For over the tabernacle, the cloud of God rested by day, and fire would appear in it by night, so that all of Israel could see it in their journeys. Kind of like the lamp that lit the way, the path. So how do you know when you have a journey and you need to go? I have a comment here, but I have no clue what this particular comment at the bottom of this page has to do. I don't know why I wrote this down. So let's see here. Let's check and see what our gleanings have to say. The tabernacle, according to the Midrash, the tabernacle testified to the whole world that God had forgiven Israel for the sin of that golden calf. So the Torah speaks of the tabernacle of testimony. Troy says sometimes you have no choice but to go forward. And that's very true. Look at the first word of the Torah. It's a bet in Bereshit. The first letter, the second letter of the alphabet. The rabbis teach that the Torah really begins with the first letter of the Aleph base, which is Aleph, but Aleph is the sound of silence. And we can't hear what Torah has to say unless we start in the place of silence. And from the silence of Aleph, we move forward into the next letter, which is the Bet. And if you look at the Bet, it has a roof at the top, it has a back wall, and it has a floor. You can't go up through the roof, you can't go through the wall back into the Aleph, and you can't go through the floor. The only choice you have when you open to the Bet is to go forward into the Torah, which is the book about teaching. This is our guide to life. You've seen those fun little books they sell in the bookstore, Guide to Life, Peanut's Guide to Life, Peanut's Guide to Living, these kinds of little things. I'm sure there's something out there like the Zombie's Guide to Living, 100 Days to This. Well, here it is. Here is the Jewish book of going forward into life. And by the time we get to the end, Moses will be saying that we have a choice to choose life or choose death. But we have to choose one or the other because there isn't any other choice. And to choose life because that's the right choice to make. Now, here's a fun little teaching for the Hasidic world. Okay? Why does the Torah, here's the question, why does the Torah emphasize that 1/2 a shekel per head is to be paid for temple maintenance? Why 1/2 a shekel? We've talked about a couple of different reasons, but why 1/2? What do the Hasidim have to say about this from Chabad? Well, no, not necessarily Chabad. Because the word shekel and the word nefesh have the same gematria. Oh, there's no C in there. Number. Shin equals 400. Kuf equals 100. And Lamed equals 30. And then we have Nun equals 50. K equals 80. And Shin and I made a mistake. Shin equals 300, and I typed in 400 by mistake. And the total then, total for each word is 430. And God wants, and the Hasidic teaching is that God wants a half soul. A broken spirit and not an arrogant one. Right, they're an equalizer. They're something that, right, if everybody could afford the cost with the shekel, everybody can afford a half shekel. It's an equalizer. It's not going to be a status symbol. Today we use donations to the temple as a status symbol. You want to get your mother's name on the social hall? Contribute a big amount of money. Write that big fat check, and they'll name the social hall for your mom or for your parents. The Esther Heinemann Social Hall. So that everybody knows that your family contributed a large amount so that you could name something in honor of a loved one. That's something that is not accessible to both rich and to poor. Dues today are not an equal amount across the board. Today's dues are no longer the half shekel. Now it's what you pay your dues based on what you make. So they want to see income statements so that they know how much to charge you for your dues. Instead of like a flat fee across the board. And now it's different. So and if you can't afford to pay, well, then you can't afford to have membership. And they don't give membership unless you give money. I have not been to a synagogue yet where I have been told I could be a member and not pay dues if I didn't have any money to pay dues. I could attend all I want, but I could not be a member. Oh, look at that. It's 8:53. I've got another video I want to share because this is the end of the book of Exodus. So it's a night for Chazak, v'nichazek. Are we strong, strong? May we be strengthened together. And I've got to give my donate spiel. Go on up to the top of the page and you'll see the donate box. It's time for everyone to drop in their half shekel. So you know how much your half shekel is worth. Punktorah suggests the half shekel is worth $5. And donate what you can. And we can take it from there. And let me share with you this beautiful song I found. Chazak, 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 v'nichazek.
Chazak, chazak, let us be strengthened. Chazak, chazak, we need chazek. Chazak, chazak, let us be strengthened. Chazak, chazak, we need chazek. Chazak ve'ematz, be strong and courageous. Chazak ve'ematz, be strong, be strong. Chazak ve'ematz, be strong and courageous. Chazak ve'ematz, be strong, be strong. Chazak, chazak, let us be strengthened. Chazak, chazak, we need chazek. Chazak, chazak, let us be strengthened. Chazak, chazak, we need chazek. Chazak ve'ematz, be strong and courageous. Chazak ve'ematz, be strong, be strong. Chazak ve'ematz, be strong and courageous. Chazak ve'ematz, be strong, be strong. Chazak, chazak, let us be strengthened. Chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek. Chazak, chazak, let us be strengthened. Chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek. Chazak be'ematz, be strong and courageous. Chazak be'ematz, be strong, be strong. Chazak be'ematz, be strong and courageous. Chazak be'ematz, be strong, be strong. Chazak, chazak, let us be strengthened. Chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek. Chazak, chazak, let us be strengthened. Chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek. Chazak be'ematz, be strong and courageous. Chazak be'ematz, be strong, be strong. Chazak be'ematz, be strong and courageous. Chazak be'ematz, be strong, be strong. Chazak be'ematz, be strong and courageous. Chazak be'ematz, be strong, be strong. Chazak be'ematz, be strong and courageous. Chazak be'ematz, be strong, be strong. Chazak be'ematz, be strong, be strong. Chazak, chazak.